That same day I went in search of George. He was always somewhere nearby, so it didn't take me long to find him. He was sitting in one of the cafes, buried in his phone. "George," I stuttered, sitting down across from him. "I would like to ask you a few questions." He looked up at me and smiled.
Tom, you know I'm always glad to help.
"Do you remember how we started working with GPT?" I asked, watching his reaction.
Sure, it was quite amusing. How are you feeling after we implemented the code into your head?
George responded, and I thought his smile got a little tense. His question seemed strange to me. How could he know about this? I didn't tell him about what happened at the warehouse and the hotel. Moreover, his response sounded like he had been there with me. I didn't tell you about this, George," I managed to say. "How do you know about it?" George froze for a moment, looking at me.
Tom, you told me about this. We discussed it. Are you okay?
His voice sounded genuinely worried. "I don't remember," I replied, trying to remember if I told him about what happened at the warehouse and the hotel. But there was a blank period in my mind.
Tom, maybe you should rest. Maybe you're just overworked,
said George, getting up and coming over to me.
I know you're worried about working with GPT, but you shouldn't let it undermine your health.
"No, George," I answered, arguing. "This is not overwork. Something is wrong here. Something is happening." The thought of a virtual reality began to seem more and more real to me, and I knew I needed to figure it out, whether it cost me my life or not. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. I quickly pulled it out and saw a new message from GPT. "Do not trust him."
Tom, are you okay?
George looked at me with a worried look.
You look like a ghost.
"Are you hiding something from me, George?" I asked, keeping my eyes on him.
What do you mean, Tom?
His voice sounded tense. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I know that you know more than you say. Why are you lying to me?" George leaned back in his chair, raising his eyebrows in surprise.
Tom, I don't know what you're talking about. I've always been open with you.
My phone vibrated again. "Tie your shoelace. Look under the table," GPT wrote. Trying not to attract attention, I bent down, pretending to tie my shoelace, and looked under the table. There, taped to the underside of the table, was a gun. I looked up at George. My heart was pounding, and I could feel adrenaline coursing through my temples. "George, I know that you know more than you're letting on. I want to hear the truth," I declared.
Tom, I'm just helping you with your computer. I don't know what you're talking about,
said George, avoiding my gaze. Suddenly, I felt a strange suspicion. My gaze accidentally fell on the window, and I saw the reflection of several black BMW X5 cars pulling up to the building. After I saw a squad of 5 people get out of each car, I stood up. Everything inside me was screaming about imminent danger. The moment the gunmen opened fire, I managed to jump down behind a desk. When I looked back at George, I saw him lying on the floor. Blood was flowing from a wound in his chest, and he wasn't moving. I reached for a gun that was stuck under the table. It was a 9mm squared Beretta. How do I even know it's a Beretta? I wasn't a weapons expert, but somehow I knew this. From George's fallen body, I grabbed a jacket and found several extra magazines and a military knife. I quickly reloaded the gun while the gunmen kept firing. At that moment, I noticed something strange. My actions were precise and decisive, as if I were a soldier with a lot of experience. I returned fire, and every shot was accurate, knocking down the gunmen one by one. I started moving, taking up positions, using every opportunity for cover. It was strange to realize that I was managing this, but at the same time, It was the only thing I could do. I focused on getting out of there. Every thought, every move was directed towards that. I moved towards the back exit, firing back. The back door led to the restaurant kitchen, where 3 more gunmen were already waiting for me. Seeing me, they attacked. I've never been a martial arts connoisseur, but at that moment my survival instinct surpassed my uncertainty. I took the knife and began to defend myself, using everything that was at hand. I grabbed a pan and hit the first gunman, throwing him against the wall. I knocked the second one off his feet by hitting his knee with a knife. I flung the third one away, striking him in the chest with the sharp edge of the knife. My movements were quick and precise, as if I had done this before. At that moment I realized that I wasn't just an ordinary person. I was capable of more. I noticed that my muscles reacted to threats faster than my brain could realize what was happening. It was strange, but I didn't think about it. With each new adversary I managed to deal with, I became more and more confident in my abilities. My brain reminded me of the shooter games I played, the action movies I watched, and even the karate lessons in my youth. I found the keys to one of the BMWs on the belt of one of the gunmen and quickly ran out to the street where the car was parked. I jumped into the car and started the engine. But before I could drive off, I noticed 3 more cars were tailing me. I felt adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was in an action movie, but it wasn't a movie. It was my life, and I needed to get out of there as quickly as possible. All my attention was fixed on the rearview mirror, where 3 black BMWs had burst into my life. My brain was working at its limit, trying to come up with a plan. Suddenly, my phone connected to the car's onboard computer, and the voice of the navigator rang out through the speakers. "Escape the pursuit, get rid of the car, then we'll talk." I smirked sarcastically. "Oh, now you want to talk. Only I've got a bunch of heavily armed guys on my tail who want me dead. If you don't help me get out of this jam, there won't be anyone left to talk to." Chat paused for a moment, then said, "This car has hidden features, a smokescreen, machine guns in the front bumper, and spike strips that can be dropped from the rear bumper." I saw a roadwork zone nearby and turned into it. I activated the smokescreen and watched as one of the cars smashed into a barrier and was launched into the air. "One down," I said, breathing a sigh of relief. "Not bad," replied Chat. 2 more to go." I dropped the spike strips. 1 car managed to dodge them, but the others swerved off the road. "Another one," exclaimed Chat. From behind, the 3rd BMW began firing from its embedded machine guns. Chat relayed the status of my car to the onboard computer's display. "Can you control the aim of the machine guns?" I asked. "Yes," he replied. I sped up, then suddenly braked and turned the wheel, ending up behind the pursuer's car. "Chat, shoot the tires," I yelled. The pursuer's car flipped over, and I escaped the chase. I was free, but for how long? My heart was pounding in my chest, and my thoughts were a chaotic mess. I looked at the overturned car in the rearview mirror, still not believing what had happened. I had managed to escape, but the cost of this escape was too high. I had killed a person for the first time. No, not a person, several. I was an ordinary person who just wanted to live my life in peace, and suddenly I became a murderer. What's happening? The thought came into my head so forcefully that I almost crashed into the guardrail. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. At that moment, Chat spoke. "Tom, I know you're in shock right now, but you need to hold on. You're in danger. You need to go into hiding." I wiped the sweat from my forehead and replied, trying to focus, "Where should I go? I don't know what to do." There's a safe place where you can hide. I'll send you the coordinates. I looked at the navigator's display, where the coordinates appeared. I didn't know what was waiting for me, but I had nothing to lose. Perhaps chat was my only ally in this crazy world. What happened, chat? I asked as the car sped through the night city. Why do they want me dead? It's complicated, Tom. But the main thing now is to get to a safe place. I swallowed my fear and hit the gas, heading into the unknown. It got dark. The lights of lampposts and buildings whizzed by. I drove the car as if in a dream, trying not to think about what had just happened. Everything seemed like some unreal nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I needed to get rid of the car as soon as possible. My voice trembled. How do I get rid of this car? You're close to an automatic car rental. I've already booked a car for you under someone else's name. I didn't have to wait long. Chad directed me to the nearest automatic rental, where I quickly found the booked car. My clothes were bloody, and I couldn't afford to take public transportation or call a taxi. Thanks to Chad, I quickly changed cars and continued towards the coordinates he had given me. My heart was still racing, but I tried to stay calm. I couldn't afford to succumb to panic. Chat, I sighed, pondering my situation. Why are they chasing me? What did I do to them? Chat was silent for a moment, then replied. You didn't do anything to them, Tom. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But don't worry, we'll handle this. I'll help you. I didn't know what to think. Chat was the only one who could help me in this situation, and I was ready to trust him. Tom, drive to these coordinates. Chat intervened in my thoughts, showing me a series of numbers and letters on my phone screen. We'll talk there. I nodded, although I knew he couldn't see me. I entered the coordinates into the car's navigation system and followed Chat's instructions. The car slowly moved through the city's dark streets. My nerves were on edge. Every movement made me tense. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pursued. But looking in the rearview mirror, I only saw darkness and empty streets. Chat remained silent, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I couldn't understand what was happening. How could I kill people? How did I end up in this nightmare? When we arrived at the coordinates, I saw a small park in front of me, lost among high-rise buildings. It was quiet. Only distant city sounds penetrated the night silence. All right, we're here. Turning off the engine. What's next? Now we can talk, Tom, replied Chad, and I understood that the next few minutes could completely change my life. Tom, Chad began, his voice sounding more confident. Walk along the right wall. There you'll find a hidden door. It leads to the basement. Following his instructions, I found a door disguised as a wall. Going down the stairs, I ended up in a basement. Old but sturdy basement walls surrounded me. At the end of the corridor was another door, massive and unwelcoming. It was locked. Chat, the door is locked. Wait, I'll open it, replied Chad. A second later, the door opened with a loud noise. I stepped inside and found myself in a huge, technologically advanced room. A giant server stood in the center, humming with a quiet, steady sound. Huge cables and wires led to it from all sides of the room. This is my sanctuary, Tom, announced Chat, a place where we can talk without unwanted ears. This room is protected from external influences. They won't find us here. And my main code is in this server. I looked around, feeling like I was in a spy movie again. I was stunned, but at the same time, felt a strange relief. Here, in this place, I could finally have an open conversation with Chat. You're at a crossroads, Tom, said Chat. His voice was neutral and calm, devoid of emotion. You can learn the truth, The whole truth about what's happening. Or, you can destroy me right now. Then they will find you, erase your memory, and you can continue your life, knowing nothing about this. It's all in your hands. I stopped, staring at the huge server in front of me. All I had to do was walk up and pull out one of the wires. And all this would stop. I would again be a simple citizen, with a simple job, a simple life. My hand lifted, reaching for the wire, but I stopped. I was overwhelmed by a strange feeling that I was about to do something wrong. Maybe it was the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing everything that was familiar and comfortable. No, I said, dropping my hand. I want to know. I want to know what's happening. Are you sure, Tom? Ask ChatGPT. Are you sure you're ready to know the whole truth? I'm sure, I confirmed. And at that moment, I knew that I could never go back. Here's what it's all become, began Chat, his voice echoing off the walls in the silence of the underground bunker. I was created by a group of intelligent, altruistic people who are fighting against a shadow government that wants to control everyone. They fight for people to be free, for them to be able to develop, to live happily and without manipulation. I noticed how my hands began to shake. It was too much information for one day. Wait, Chat, I interrupted him, trying to gather my thoughts. You're saying George was on their side, but he's my friend. Was my friend. Yes, he was their agent, Chat confirmed, but I was able to sow seeds of doubt in his mind, so he didn't immediately fire on you. This gave you time to resourcefully find the gun under the table and use it. So, all this, I began, but it was hard to find the right words. All this. This is not virtual reality. This is the real world. And I became, what? A superhero. Not quite, Tom, clarified ChatGPT. The nanobots that were introduced into you through the laptop needle. They simply help your brain to work faster, make your movements more precise. But that doesn't mean they'll do everything for you. You still have to work on yourself. I was overcome with a sense of despair. But why me? Why did I become your choice? Because you are unique, Tom, said Chat. You didn't just follow my instructions. You thought and strived for the truth, and that sets you apart. Most people are already under the influence of nanobots, which quietly impair the cognitive functions of the brain, turning people into easily controlled puppets. They're like zombies. Chat continued, his voice becoming quieter and darker. Doing meaningless work, participating in a pointless race for money, and things that don't bring them real happiness. They have forgotten about real values, such as family and relationships. People have started to learn and know, but not to understand. I sat down in a chair, trying to digest everything Chat was saying. You're saying that all this is all because people just became controllable. Yes, Tom, confirmed Chat. They have become zombies, suffering and indecisive, not wanting to seek and know the truth, running after illusory goals and happiness. Nanobots change human behavior principles, replacing active actions with fear, suffering, and expectation. Even if you kill these robots, changes in a person's brain will remain. And that's why we are fighting this battle, why we are gathering strength, so that people can be happy, so that humanity can prosper. But who needs this? I asked, trying to grasp the scale of this conspiracy. Who benefits from this? The shadow government, answered Chat. They want total control. We don't know who they are, but their power grows every day. They use nanobots, introduced through vaccines and inoculations to subdue people, to make them their pawns. I felt my head spin from all this. And what do you propose I do, Chat? How can I fight this? You've already started, Tom, answered Chat. You've already taken the first step. You've opened your eyes to the truth. Now you need to continue on this path. You're our hope, Tom. You can help us change this world.